There we go. We're live. Let's set up this camera a little bit better. Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the second live video of the Sugar Do Happy Notes Quilt Along. Lovely to see you in the chat already. So here's my camera. There's the laptop. So there I can read everything you're writing. And I see Linda popping in. Yes, good Happy New Year. Yes, good morning and Happy New Year. Patty is here, Paula, Mary, Karina, Jenny. Hi there, everyone. That is lovely that you're dropping in. So the chat is working, so I guess everything is set up just fine. Yeah, good morning for everybody overseas, or good evening if you're overseas the other way. So today, the second live video of our Happy Notes Quilt Along. I'm super curious if you got started, if you've made your first blocks already, and how you're doing. So let me know in the chat if you already started making some blocks. And I haven't finished my blocks yet. Not the best start of the quilt along, but I will make up for that in the next few weeks. So I thought before I started this live, I could go rush and finish that third block and then have it all looking like I have everything very well organized. But I don't have everything. I'm not very well organized. So I thought, let's just be real and share that it's okay. That is okay. So I did finish one of the blocks. I finished the create block, and the other one of the yarn blocks I have done in sections, which I'm going to show you in a second. This one I wanted to assemble during this video, so that's what we're going to do. And the other one I still have to make. Karina has copied the patterns already, and Patty has it all finished. Paula started today, first block made. Oh, that's wonderful. Happy to hear that I'm not alone with not having everything ready. And Rebecca started printing the patterns, but didn't start yet. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, Linda already made 15 cups. That is wonderful. Oh, that's cool. So, lovely to hear that you started. And in the last two videos, we chatted about having a progress tracker. So I made a progress tracker. And this is it. This is the one for the smaller sampler. And here we have one for the bigger sampler as well. So I emailed those to the Happy Notes Quilt Along email list. So if you're on there, it's in your inbox. And I will soon also add this to the Sugar Do Happy QAL, Happy Call website. So then you can download these there as well. And I just assembled or gathered all the blocks in the quilt. So this is the smaller sampler and the big one. And then you can just cross off everything you did. So I made the create block so I can cross that off. And well, you have your checklist to see which ones you still need to make. Yeah, so that's that. I'm excited about those, so they can keep us organized a little bit. Lovely. Everybody's popping in. Mary is working on them, not finished yet. Lovely. Good morning, Cheryl. Hi there. Delphia said, I thought I was going to have trouble with them, but I started. Oh, you started your first block. That is lovely. That's lovely. Cheryl says, also haven't started yet. Awesome. Oh, lovely. Well, here is the first block that I finished for the quilt along, create. And I still had to decide what kind of background I was going to use, but I went for Dove. So that's a kind of a soft gray. That's also in some of your kits. So this one is done, the very, very first block, so I can cross that off the list. And I managed to make all the sections for the small yarn block. So this is a small block, and it has some pretty tiny. Let's see, can we get this in focus? Almost there. Yes, no. Almost there. Yes, no. Well, can we get this in focus? Of course. Let's do it like this. Can we get this in focus? Yes. Well, it has some pretty tiny pieces, like you see there. So that is some pretty tiny piecing. But when you take it piece by piece, I'm sure that every one of you will manage to sew this. And a little tip with sewing those tiny pieces, you don't have to cut your pieces tiny. So just keep your pieces pretty big because that will make the sewing easier. And you can always trim it back when you have too much excess fabric after sewing. But working with those tiny pieces, don't cut your pieces too small. That kind of helps. Oh, lovely. So yes, what we're going to do in this video, I wanted to show you how I assemble blocks when I made them with freezer paper, because after you sew, you peel away the paper and then you don't have the pattern on your pieces anymore. So let's see, the freezer paper is sticking to the fabric a little bit, and I will just peel it off, all of the sections. Yeah, so I'm going to show you in a bit how I sew those together, and then after that we take our jar and we pick our new prompts, so the new blocks that we will be making over the next 4 weeks. So then we have 4 weeks to catch up with the blocks that we had to make already, and 4 weeks to also make the new blocks. And I'm pretty determined to get back on track and to finish all the blocks in a few weeks. Let's see what's happening in the chat. My progress on the small version. Oh, Joe already did 3 blocks. That is awesome. That is really good. Perfect. And Joe says, it makes me smile that all the images of the old technology prior. Yes, yes. So the phones and the radio. Yeah, I thought that was a fun touch to do in the books. No new smartphones and those things in the quilt, but the old technology. Yeah. Okay, so Patty has a question, and then after that, I will start assembling this one. Patty says, how do you keep your freezer paper from pulling and fraying your seam? I don't know. For me, it always pulls and frays a little bit. So you can't really, I think we're going to have a hard time showing this in focus. I will show you when I put my camera on here. It will always fray a little bit, but let me put the camera here and then I can show you how I pull it away, and then you will get an idea. If you have questions, just keep putting them in the comments. I will check every now and then. I'm just going to turn the camera so that it's facing down and that I can demonstrate a little bit of how I put the blocks together. Let's see. There we go. There we have my blocks, the planner. We can get this out of the way. There we go. Let's just put everything on here. Do we have something below? There we go. Yeah, so here is the block. Let's put it together, because this is kind of a puzzle when you're doing it without without the image right next to it. I know that there has to be someone here. This one goes there and there, and this one should be on top over here. Then we have one left. Is it there? Yes, I think it's like this. That is the image of the yarn wool. So yeah, fraying is a little bit of a problem, because when you do freezer paper, you have the paper on the back and you need to pull it away. And I just go as careful as I can. But as you can see, there is some pulling away of threads on the seams. So I just don't rip it off all at once, but I try to go kind of with the seams. With this one, it's easier because the seams are all laying in the same direction. And then it's kind of okay. It does fray the seams a little bit, but once you've sewn the block together, it's not going to do any damage to the block, really. It just looks a little bit messy. So there we have that one. But when you have seams in different directions, it's a little bit more difficult, like this one. When you would pull the seam open, if that makes sense. So I always try to find a spot where I can keep hold on the seam and then kind of rip it from the other side. Oh, that one went nicely. And I'll just do a few more. Like one here. I know if I would just try to rip it from this side, see, then there I would pull on the seam. So then I'll just start out in a corner and then see if I can go with the seams instead of going against the seams. There we go. So important thing to note before you start pulling away all those paper that you cut a 1/4 inch seam. Let me get my ruler. So before I pull away all those papers, I made sure that I cut at a 1/4 inch of the line. So these are already cut, but I made sure to cut first at a 1/4 inch around all the edges, because then you know you can sew at a 1/4 inch when you join those sections together. There we go. Whoops, that kind of frayed a lot, and I didn't take my time pulling. Maybe I went a little bit too fast there. And what also helps, so maybe you noticed, but I was pulling here and this seam came undone a little bit. I haven't sewn these with a small stitch length. So when you would do this with a smaller stitch length, then your seams would stay together better. So this one got undone a little bit. It's not a big problem because we will be sewing here and then the seam will be secure again. But to prevent this, it's better to sew with a slightly smaller stitch length. And while I'm doing this now, I have a little bit of an idea that could help. So what if we would use some heat from an iron? Let's say this is a little experiment. So if we would heat it up again, maybe it does get a little bit softer. So maybe when we would pull it while it's still hot, would that work? Or would it make it stick even more? Let's try another one. Do we have another one? Yes, this one. If you would heat it and rip away, then pretty fast. Would that help? Yes, that does kind of help. I think this is something that we could try a little bit more and see if it really works. So heating up the paper again and not letting it cool off. I don't have another one to try. That might help in pulling away. I think that's worth a try. So that was just a little idea to try out. Yeah, so let's see in the chat. Carol also says problem with taking the paper off, yeah, with fraying. So, well, maybe, just maybe, putting heat on it and then removing the paper when it's warm. Maybe that helps. So yeah, Cynthia also says warming it up is a great idea to try. Yeah, so maybe we will be trying that, and then we will let each other know in 4 weeks how it went. So now we have to put this together, and the straight parts are the easiest parts. So let's join this one and this one together. Then you will just put this on top of each other. You can pin it or not pin it, just what you prefer. And then you sew it with the quarter-inch seam allowance. And this is a straight seam, so it's kind of the easiest to combine. Let's see, how are we going to do this? Can I get my sewing machine in frame? Yes. It's kind of messy over here, but that's okay, right? There we go. So I have my Bernina 97 foot, and that is a perfect foot to sew with a quarter-inch seam allowance. There we go. Yeah, so that is joined with a quarter-inch seam allowance. And then it's time to pin something that is a little bit more difficult. So when I would join these two pieces, and when I would do that while the paper is still attached, and when I would be doing it with foundation paper piecing, then I would have reference points here because the pattern would be still on there. So I would know the corners in which to pin. Yeah, but now I don't have that. So I just have these pieces and I need to sew them together. So I do kind of eyeball it, and I look for other reference points. So in this seam, we have a reference point over here because we have the needle and the top of the needle, and this little ball needs to join nicely over here. So the thing I did when I just started out quilting is that I would just line up the corners. But when you would do that, line up those corners over here and flip it over, then you can see it shifted. So lining it up over here when it's on an angle, you see that it's not the thing to do, but you have to scoop it down a little bit, and then it has to line up. Yeah, so maybe you expected a very, very, very good explanation of this, but it's also not the case that it is a perfect quarter-inch that you should scoop it down. You just need to see a small triangle over here, and you can place pins to see what it's going to look like. So placing a pin like this on eyeballing a quarter-inch seam and a pin over there, and then you fold it open, and then you can see how well you did. So on this seam on the outside, you see that it's nice and aligned, and over here as well. So I think we're on the right track. And the bottom of the bowl is going to be a little bit bigger than a needle, so don't need to worry about that too much. But I do want to have it kind of centered. That's the best thing about fabric, that you can always manipulate it a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is place a pin in the needle seam, both sides, and that will show me on the other side where the needle will be joined to the ball. That looks good. I hope I can get this in focus. So what I would want is the needle to be kind of in the center of the ball. So these pins are sticking out at the point that the needle will, yeah, well, that is the, it's not an intersection, but what is it called? There the line, the seam will be. And I would like to have that in the center of the little green ball. And I think we managed to do that. So that is in a good place. So now I'm going to pin this all in place. Let's put a pin like this. And then we'll pin this over here. I'll put this out. This one can go over here. So then these two, I can remove these two. So that should be in place. Let's sew this and see how we did. There we go. Oh, Monica says she also does that most of the times. She uses freezer paper. Oh, wonderful. So that works for you as well. So there we go. We've sewn this together, and I am kind of happy with this. This kind of ended in the center of where I wanted it to be. And then you can, I sometimes get the question if I press my seams open or not, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This is kind of chunky over here, so both sides have some seams. So now I think I will press this open so that it's not going to be super bulky. Let's just give this a press and see how we did. Turn it over. I think that went pretty well because this is nicely aligned and this is also nicely aligned. So that looks good to me. Okay, so also press this one. So there is one more trick that I sometimes do, and now I was so focused on ripping away the paper that I didn't do it. I will try to show you. So if you want to have those points in the corners of your sections of where you should place pins, you can also have those while using the freezer paper method. So that looks good. That's going to go on top over there. So let's say we had this piece. Where is the paper? Just going to reattach the paper to show you. There it is. Is this one? This is the one. Okay. I'll just try to match it. There we go. I'll just reattach the paper to show you what I mean. But what you could do is grab a pen or a pencil or a fabric marker, and what you want to do is fold over the paper and just until the corner. So you see the corner over here, you will fold the paper, and then you kind of want to find the corner and you just put a little dot there, and that will mark the corner. So here as well, you fold away. I hope this shows on camera. So you fold away that little paper until you have the corner. Just check if your fold is on the corner, and then you place a little dot in the corner, and now you know where your pin should be. So this one has to be attached here, So what you would do then, let me also place those dots over here. I'm just going to pretend that it's attached. That will work as well. So there's a little dot, and then here, let's see, that should be a little bit more to this side. There we go. So then you would have two sections with points, with little dots on there. And what you can do then is take a pin, you put it through one of the dots, and you put the pin through the dot in the other section as well. There we go. That's one. And then you take another pin. Let me take a straight one. There we go, through that dot, and then through the other dot. And then when you grab hold of those pins, the pin should be perpendicular to your block, but then it should be perfectly in place. So if you place those dots on your sections before you remove your freezer paper, then you can nicely align your blocks like this. And then just make sure that that pin is kind of perpendicular to the fabric before you pin everything in place. Because when your pin is when your pin is laying flat like this, it could be that the fabric on the other side shifted a little bit. So keep that pin perpendicular to the fabrics while you put in the new pin. And then I just put in one in the middle, and then you're ready to sew. So that's a little trick to fold away the freezer paper and put a dot on there before you go. But if you don't do that, you can also manage by just going slowly and testing out by pinning on the 1/4 inch seam line if you place the blocks correctly. Yeah, I think I'm going to rotate the camera again. There we go. Oops. Let's put my iron out of the way. I'll sew this together. So then that one is also nicely sewn together. Yeah, so first method, kind of just wing it and sew them together. The second method with the little dots is a little bit more thought out. I don't always take the time to place those dots, and sometimes I will just sew, and sometimes I take the time to do those dots. But well, this one turned out really nicely. So the thing we're looking for is that these lines continue into a straight line. Even though we've sewn on the diagonal, this line should be straight for this block. So there we go. Another section joined for the yarn block. I hope that made a little bit of sense, and that would help you join your sections for freezer paper. And let's see if there was something else in the comments. Carol says your freezer paper is so superior to others. It's a trade-off. Do you mean that mine is sticking very well? That could be. I think the sticking also has to do with your heat of your iron. My iron is set to really hot, and that makes the freezer paper stick quite well. And I also always make sure that when I press my fabrics, I press from the fabric side, and I also press from the paper side. So when there's paper on here, I also always press from this side so that it really sticks, because it's pretty annoying when you go to your sewing machine to sew your piece with the freezer paper method, and then everything slides and you have to reposition your freezer paper and have to restick it. So I just press it really well and use a lot of heat, and also press on the paper side. Not on the glossy side, of course, never on the glossy side. That will make it stick to your iron. Yeah. So Ariana also says that she's going to try. Yeah, I think it kind of felt like it would work. So, but do take it off then when it's warm. Don't burn your fingers. Be careful, of course. And Patty says, I leave my paper on and fold it back to the 1/4 inch line and then line up the dots and then sew it. That is also an awesome solution. So what she's saying is leave this on and then fold back over the line that should be joined with your other section. And then you have it like this, so fold it back. And then put a different section behind it and also fold the paper out of the way and then sew. That's also a perfect solution. Great idea, Patty. Yeah, so then you can also join them together. Great. Could be a little bit difficult, more difficult maybe to put your pins through the papers and the fabrics, but I think that's perfect. Line them up, line up the dots. Yeah, you can also stick your pins in like this, so in the fabric part. Yep, sounds good. Great. So a few solutions to sew your freezer paper sections together. Okay. Let's pick the blocks that we're going to make over the next weeks. Exciting. We're going to do this one. No, I lost it. This one then. I have one. What are we going to sew? For the people working on the big sampler, they are going to make 4 ice cream blocks and 1 sewing machine. 4 ice cream blocks and 1 sewing machine. And for everybody with a small sampler, we are also going to make the sewing machine and we're going to make the make block. That will fit nicely with the create block that we already did. So the make block and the create block kind of look the same, but the make block, of course, has 4 letters. And so we're both going to make the sewing machine. That is a fun one. And the big sampler people are going to make 4 ice cream blocks as well. So those are 5 blocks for the big sampler people, and the small sampler people are going to make 2 blocks. Lovely. The sewing machine is a pretty big block, so that's going to be a fun one to make. And the ice cream blocks do have quite a lot of pieces. So if you want to stay on track, don't save these blocks if you're working on the big sampler for the last day. Yeah, those might take some time to do. Lovely. Well, I need to store this piece of paper because I will send this in an email with the link to the replay for everybody on the newsletter who couldn't make it here in the live video. Paula says, for the big sampler, are we doing 10 or 11-inch ice creams? Let me get my book and I will answer that. Let me see. I think it will be 2 small ice creams and 2 big ones. Ice cream. Yes. So the book says 2 10-inch ice creams and 2 11-inch ice creams. Yep. Where is the quilt? There is the quilt. So let me see. Ice creams. Here we have a big ice cream, and there we have the smaller ice cream. And at the bottom of the quilt, there's again the smaller ice cream, and there we have the bigger. So 2 10-inch and 2 11-inch. Yes, that is correct. So yes, 2 sizes of the ice cream blocks. And the sewing machine is just 1 size. Let's see where that one is. I think it's a 12-inch block. Yeah, the sewing machine is a 12-inch block. So those are the ones that we're going to make. So is there another question? Yes. Would someone please... Oh, what is written behind there? Please, I can't do that word. Tell me the size of the create and make blocks. Yes, I can tell you that is 8-inch, I believe. Let me measure again. Yep. So the make and create blocks are 8-inch, as well in the big sampler as in the smaller sampler. So those are the same sizes. Yep, and they are also at 8-inch in the book. Yep. Let me see. I'm just going to check the extra page for you. Because I don't know from the top of my head, but I think that sewing machine in the smaller sampler, what size was it? It is a size 11-inch, yes. So the sewing machine in the book is 12-inch, but for the smaller sampler, we don't have the 12-inch blocks, but we do have 11-inch. So when you go to the bonus website that is that you can find through the QR codes in the book, then you will find the 11-inch block patterns. So you can download the PDF pattern from the bonus website for the book. And then you can make the 11-inch sewing machine if you're making the smaller sampler like me. Yep. Good. So we're ready to continue quilting and sewing our blocks. And I hope in a few weeks I can show you my sewing machine block and the yarn blocks and the make block. And then we'll get together again to pick another one of these. Yes, so that was it. Thank you so much for joining. Yes, so if you have questions in the meantime, always feel free to ask me through email or well, I'll leave a comment on the videos and then I can help you there. Have fun quilting, enjoy making your blocks because, well, that's why we're doing this, right? Having fun in quilting and enjoying sewing together. And thank you so much for being here. I would love to see you again in 4 weeks and take care until then. Bye!